Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital's daily live stream of the market open. Today is currently May 11th, and as we kick off the new week, we got PPI data that came in just slightly lower than consensus, and then we have initial job loss claims ticking up. So the trend in job loss claims are starting to uptick, which is kind of a little bit concerning here. Basically, what we're seeing here is a few stocks are up in the pre-market, but the markets have started to roll over to the downside. So just pay attention to that because we are seeing a little bit of weakness in this market. Strength in Google, strength in Amazon. Full disclosure, I just took a Google short here at 115.4. I just took a Google short here at 115.4. It's going to be a starter position. So it's up into that level right now. 115.4. So that's one of the stocks we're obviously looking at. One of the reasons I'm taking it there is you're into the monthly 20 moving average. That should be good resistance as we speak. The monthly moving average. Alright, so that's in the pre-market. 115.4, starter position on Google. I'll actually just turn this to the intraday chart so we can see the action transpire ahead of us. The next add level on this position would be, just bear with me 1 second. Basically 116.20 would be the next add level. 116.20. Sorry, just 116 even. That's the next add level. And then 116.60. Basically every 60 cents will add to this position. Alright, a couple other stocks obviously that are making moves in this pre-market. You have Disney. Disney's falling a little bit lower here. So I'll just keep this on. Disney, you can see Disney is basically trading sub 100 again. 95.26 on the charts right now. Let's see if we can isolate. I do have some levels on Disney, but they are lower. The only real level that I would get interested in is a retrace back to this pivot. So 90 bucks. So that is the level I'm interested in. Goodyear tires pumping up a little bit here. It's up over 19% on the session, so that might be a potential short as well. And then if we get some sort of a pullback, it would be a momentum play to the upside. I'm just scrolling through to see if there's any other stocks that are coming up on my radar. So Goodyear Tire is basically gapping up to 1406. Really the only level that I see is basically if it attacks this 100 weekly moving average. So that 100 weekly moving average kind of coincides with this pivot high. That is the short level on that particular name, and then you would have a little bit of backup with this resistance breakdown pivot sitting around 1479. I'm going to wait to see how this one opens because it is a thinner name. It is a smaller stock, so it does have a tendency to potentially overshoot. I know steel stocks are under a lot of pressure today as well. You have aluminum stocks like Alcoa also got upgraded today, but that's putting in bearish pattern to potentially go lower. This is on watch for a head and shoulders trigger on the weekly, and it just got upgraded today to an outperform. So typically when stocks get upgraded by these analysts, they're trying to get exit liquidity out of this market. All right, let's flip back to the SPY here just to see what is going on. Basically the spiders will be gapping slightly lower at 411.19, so we'll mark our little gap fill there and we'll pay attention to it. So the support level on the spiders is going to be basically right around this double bottom zone after you had that incredible rally yesterday. Alright, and Google's basically just trading under our level. just trading under our level. The dollar's creating a huge bid today, so if you take a look at the Dixie, that's going to apply pressure to the market today, up 0.5%. You have gold selling off. You have Bitcoin also selling off under pressure. Basically, the QQQs are seeing the strength right now, and you have weakness in the regionals again. Pac West is getting absolutely decimated again. So Pac West is closed at 605, gapping down to 468. I mean, this one could be in trouble today, and that's going to definitely weigh on the IWM. So what we're going to look for today as well is if we can get any bearish pattern on the IWM, since it's relatively weak, we could potentially short the IWM on the way down. It is likely that it comes back down to fill this gap at around 170.40. So pay attention to the IWM because it is relatively weak today, and that's because of the regionals. Alright, so we'll watch Google. We'll keep the Russell up here. So the next ad level on Google would be this 116 even. And if tech starts to give it up, that's going to definitely weigh in on this market. I'm just gonna turn this to the regular hour since we have 2 minutes left. So keep Disney on your watch. Keep obviously Google, we're in already. And we'll see if this does a good old-fashioned gap and crack to the downside. So the spiders right now are falling. So we have about 6 minutes till the open. Spiders are falling. The Russell's also under a little bit of pressure. Nat gas is creating a little bit of a bid. Gold is reversed from the highs. That's good to see. I do have a short level on Amazon as well. If Amazon made a big directional move into the... There's a gap fill at around 112.74. But I would let it pierce that gap. So keep Amazon on your radar because it's trading at around just sub 111. And we may have an opportunity there to potentially short it as well. In terms of buyable levels on the Russell, if the Russell flushed into this gap within the hour, we could potentially go long. If the spiders, again, flushed into this downsloping pivot over here, we could go long. And if the QQQs, QQQs are a little bit more trickier. Really the level on the Qs, basically this bottom of this, or this upsloping wedge pattern, we could potentially play for a long. Excuse me. Just gonna grab some water here. Yields are down today. Bitcoin's down about 1%. Yields are down across the board. The VIX is up today. Natural gas is up about 1.29. Google's actually pushing up some more now. So Google's trading at 115.48, 47. But you are into some pretty good monthly resistance for Google at these levels. So I think on Google we can look for about, it's pretty extended. You know, and right now I think we can look for at least 90 cents on it. So keep Google on your radar for a potential short. Obviously we're watching Goodyear Tire, which Goodyear Tire's into that weekly 100 MA right now. And it just tagged it. and it pulled off of it by 6 cents. Wow, it tagged it. Look at this tag of Goodyear Tire. 1439 was the level. Look at that, and it's already finding resistance there. Very interesting. I'm going to watch it closely. I will watch it closely to see how it reacts. And if Google starts to fade, it's really going to weigh in on the Qs, because you have Nvidia that just turned slightly negative, I believe. Let me just pull that up. You have Meta that's negative. You have Microsoft that's down 0.5 percentage point. Nvidia's just holding on to the positive gains. And then you have Apple that's just turned negative. So it's really Google and Amazon out of the mega caps today that are holding things up to the buoyant side. Couple other movers. Some of the China stocks are getting bids today. So you have BABA gapping up higher. It closed at 82.95. It's at 85. PDD. So that's clearly showing strength. But the question is, will that last in an environment if oil continues to push up? Russell's catching a small bid. Gold's still weak. Bitcoin's still weak. Wow, Google just blasted through here. So we may have to add to Google. Big push on Google. So again, the next ad level on Google is around this 116 even number. 116 even number. Alright, Google's hitting that level in the pre-market. It's catching a nice bid. Wow, I did not get filled. I think they missed it by 1 penny there. You can see. Yep, it hit that 116 level, guys. I didn't get filled. Google's coming back up again, guys. So Google's coming back up. I will add if it hits that 116. It's trying to push. Big push. Alright, I just added to my Google short here at, let me know if I got filled. Hasn't filled me yet. I did not get filled. I repeat, I did not get filled. That 116 I was hoping for. Alright, markets are set to open in 1 minute. Google's up to that 116 almost. I'll let you know if I got filled. Here we go. We have 27 seconds to the open. Google's pushing up a little bit more now. Alright, I just got filled at the Google there. So I got filled at 116.10 there, and Google's pushing up some more now. Google is pushing up some more. 116.60 is the next level. My average is 115.67, so Google's now coming in. Google's coming in sharper now. We're in the money here. I have 200 shares on Google. I personally have 200 shares. We're seeing the spiders break down. And we could see Google gap and crack unless they come and mention AI another few more times. Apple's weakening. Qs are trying to hold up, but they're turning negative. Spiders are falling. Google's still holding up very, very strong here. Tesla's weak today. Disney's almost at a level that we could play, but not quite. Not quite there. Some movers. Palantir's up again. Google's still up tremendously on the session. AMD's starting to see some weakness. Russell's still coming down. So we're slightly out of the money on Google, but that's okay. Microsoft's falling pretty sharply here. Disney's still under a lot of pressure as well. So Google's falling, guys. Let's see what we can get out of Google. Let's look at the Qs here. Qs are falling, so that should help our Google trade. Wouldn't be surprised if Google goes negative with the rest of the market. That would be something else. So Google's still acting well here, but there's some clear resistance. Nvidia's falling sharply lower. Tesla's falling too. But Google's still holding up. Disney, I'm interested in Disney at the 91.61 level. 91.61. I will go long Disney. So definitely keep Disney on watch. It is falling sharply lower, Disney. Looks like some liquidation is occurring. Amazon seeing a little bit of distribution. Google's still fighting that area. Lots of distribution, buying coming in, people chasing. That's some heavy, heavy sell side pressure though. Spiders are still coming down. Dollar's still near the highs of the session. Disney's still coming down. I like it a little bit lower. Keep Disney on your radar. Let that thing fall. Alright, Google's now coming down pretty sharply here. Google is coming down pretty sharply. Alright guys, I'm covering Google here. 114.94. 114.94. Boom. That is a nice little gain. First thing in the morning. 114.94. Basically that is 74 cents times 200 shares for us. If Google was to pierce back up, we could play it again. I am looking at the Russell for a short as well, since regionals are extra weak today. So if we get a bearish pattern on the Russell, let's look at Disney as well. And definitely keep Google on your radar, because that's a decent level. If Google was to come back up to the highs here around 116, we could potentially play it on the short side again. So I'm actually interested in playing it again. Starter position. If it pierces that 116, we're going to short Google again. Disney's still coming down. Let Google continue to push up some more. Microsoft's getting hammered. Aluminum, copper stocks are getting slaughtered. You have gold under pressure. Google's coming back up to 116, guys. Google is coming back up to 116. Disney's still coming down. Alright guys, I just shorted Google here at 115.99. 115. I did not get filled. Oh, yep, I did. Sorry, I did get filled. 115.99. 100 shares again. Starter position. Basically, we have a higher average than the last one, which is pretty awesome. Google's coming back down again, but the markets should get a bounce here, which could lift Google. Disney I'm still interested in Disney. That one's definitely on watch. You have PacWest down 28%. Google's catching a bid. The next ad level on Google will be around 116.46. And then 116.96. Alright, Google's pushing up here. Spiders are definitely catching a bid. So 116.46 is the next short level on Google. Spiders are catching a bounce. Qs are catching a bounce. Get ready to add to Google. Alright, I just got filled on Google at 116.46. 116.46. Google's continuing to push. My average on Google now is 116.20. And it's surging up higher. So next ad level is around 117. 117 will add on Google. Alright, I'm just adding to my Google short here at 117. I got filled at 117.05. So my average now is 116.62. 116.62. Google's acting strong here. Microsoft's still coming down. Tesla's still coming down. Apple's still weak. Wow, what a surge on Google. We're going to be adding at 117.47 again. 117.47 we'll add again to Google. This thing is just a beast. AMD is also coming down. Now Google's starting to soften up. You have the spiders still acting weak. The dollar's at the highs. Dollar's at the highs. Google's up 4%. Wow. What a rip on Google. Here comes Google. Look at this sell side liquidity coming in on Google. Jesus, Google's volatile for a $1 trillion name. I mean, it's a massive, massive move. Disney's catching a bounce, so that trade still, hasn't hit our level. Steel stocks are still weak. Paramount's still weak. Google's still moving up. Google's a powerhouse right now. It looks like it may want to head to the gap fill around, what is that at? That's around 117.84. There's a gap on Google at 117.84. But we'll see if it gets up there. So this is a big level. 117.84 is a gap on Google. So we're sitting at 116.62. It's a 2-6 position on Google. Sorry, 3-6 position. Markets are catching a small bounce here. Nvidia is still weak today. Nvidia's down 0.5%. Apple's weak today. Disney's still weak. Bitcoin's trying to catch a small bid. The Russell's moving up. If the Russell were to head back to its gap fill, we could short the Russell. Still watching Google, of course. Silver's weak today. Home builders are seeing some sell side pressure. Coinbase is trying to move up. Meta's moving up. Nvidia's coming back down. Microsoft's seeing more sell side. Alright guys, I'm going to add to my Google at 117.70. 117.70. Actually move that. That's the gap fill. GDX is weak today. Alright, I'm just about to add to my Google. Never mind, it pulled back. Did pull back a little bit. Nvidia's making a new low. The Russell's also a potential short here. See if Google gets one more little push up. It's very close to its gap fill. Very, very close to its daily gap. Dollar's still continuing to surge. Alright, Google's coming in a little bit now. Nvidia's still nearing the lows of the session. Disney's still coming down. I'm interested in Disney for a long. It's not at the level yet, but it's coming in pretty close. So we discussed this this 90.42 level on Disney. And obviously we're just waiting on Google. Dollar's still near the highs. Microsoft's down 1.44, Robinhood's up, Unity's up, Apple's negative, Intel's negative. So the big question is, it's very difficult. It's going to be very difficult if for the rest of the mega caps. If the rest of the mega caps stay negative, it's going to be difficult for Google to stay positive. And Google's looking like it wants to hit that gap. Alright, I just added to my Google here 117.70, 117.70. Brings my average up to 117.10. Markets are catching a bid here. GDX is rolling over. Google's looking like it's heading to that gap fill. Alright, Google just hit its gap fill. Google just hit its gap fill. Now the big question is it going to start to come in? And this is all on the back of just AI news. Alright, we're starting to see a little bit of distribution. Very minor. Nat gas is softened up. Spider's trying to bounce and push up a little bit more now. We have silver still at the lows. Amazon is pulled off of the highs and seeing some minor distribution. Still acting okay, holding the intraday short-term moving average, but we'll see if it starts to come down. XOM's under a little pressure today. Costco and Walmart are pulling off of the highs. GDX is getting smoked. BABA's ripping. BABA's up over 4.82% here, coming up into its first resistance point around this level, around 87.50. PDD is getting a good rip. Nvidia's starting to cave even more. Disney's trying to bounce here. Still hasn't hit our level. Take a look at Nvidia, looking very weak today. It's starting to roll over a little bit more. Let's look at AMD. Let's take a look at Goodyear Tire. So GT, look at that level we discussed. Holy, that would have been easier short than Google. Boom, massive pullback off of that level we discussed. So anybody that took that, nice job. Google's still just hovering up around that 117.42 level. This IBRX is getting decimated. Let's check on PACW. So PACW is getting a little bit of a bounce, which means the KRE regionals and the Russell is probably getting a bounce here. But the Russell, if the Russell takes out its low, that's going to be detrimental. Google's still just fighting this level. Spiders are coming down more now. Dollar's at the highs, so this market might be in trouble here today. The dollar's ripping today. Take a look at this dollar surging. I mean, you got a nice bullish hourly close that's about to happen in 11 minutes above these wicks. If you get an hourly close here, you're likely going to test this pivot up here. After some consolidation today, you could move up there. And keep in mind we have some Fed speakers. Alright, so we're basically almost flat on that Google trade. Spiders are making a new intraday low. Things are looking a little bit weak today across the board. Copper's still getting slaughtered. Aluminum's breaking down. Home builders are still strong. You're seeing some weakness starting to creep in commercial real estate. Home Depot's looking weak. PacWest. Disney's coming down, guys. Disney's still interested in a long on Disney. It is coming down. Very interested in Disney. Spiders are still seeing some weakness. Take a look at Unity. So dollars at the highs. Unity is a short. If we can get up into this gap fill here. Disney's still coming down, guys. Let that thing fall. Let Disney fall here. Google's starting to come down a little bit more now. Spiders are still making a new low. Nvidia just made a new low. Gold is getting absolutely hammered today. Take a look at gold. Just getting dumped on. It's obviously hurting GDX. It's obviously hurting silver. So silver doing a big breakdown. Look at silver losing this bullish consolidation pivots, so that's a big level on silver. Will we get an hourly close below that trend line? That's going to be key to look for. So SPY's getting a bounce here. Google's back up to the high side. Google's making a new high. Big bounce on Nvidia coming in, big bounce in the market starting to appear. Google's up now 4.9%. Massive move on Google. Disney's starting to show some signs of life. Google has the 100 weekly moving average at 119.47. That's probably your next big resistance level, 119.47. So Amazon's now pushing up, spiders are pushing up, dollars still near the highs of the session. You're seeing Apple continuing to fall. The Russell looks like a short here if we take out this pivot. PayPal's down again today as well, another 0.7%. Markets are trying to bounce here. Tesla's trying to bounce off the lows as well. Interesting little pattern on Tesla forming. That one could be a potential play on the long side if it were to break out of this pattern. We will see. I'm going to add to my Google at 118.11. 118.11 is the next add level. So we're still seeing Google hold up, and this is the thing, the market's weak today, and you have strength in Amazon and Google. If Amazon and Google are weak at all, the markets are going to sell off. Now, obviously the counter opinion is true as well. If the rest of the market firms up, like Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Tesla, if they start firming up, this market could rip. But as of now, they're not firming up. And the dollar's still at the highs. Bitcoin's still selling. Coinbase is seeing a little bit of resistance near these highs here. Steel stocks are still under pressure. You have volatility slightly up on the session. Gold is still getting destroyed. Copper is getting demolished. Aluminum's getting hit pretty hard. Disney's still coming down, guys. Disney at that Pierce of 91 gets me intrigued. Or sorry, 91.50 around that level gets me intrigued on Disney. Amazon's still pushing up. Looks like Amazon wants to go for its gap fill at around 112.86. Spiders are trying to test the lows and make new lows. Look at the IWM, that's actually firming up. Oops, my apologies. I did the wrong chart there. So spiders are seeing some weakness. Google's starting to come in a little bit more now. Let's look at the QQQ. So now we're starting to see relative weakness in the Qs, but the Russell's starting to get a little bit of an uptick. Typically that doesn't last long though. So we'll look at the Qs there. We'll pay attention to the Qs and Goog. Apple's making new intraday lows, so Apple just made a brand new intraday low. Qs are still acting a little weak today. Nat Gas is trying to hold on to some positive gains. It's up 0.8%. I'm watching PayPal and Disney for a long. Amazon's at the high of the session, acting extremely well. PacWest has bounced off of its lows. PacWest has bounced off of its lows. Amazon's pushing up, so Amazon and Google are lifting this market now. And they're lifting the Qs. Dollar's still at the highs though, so be careful about that dollar surging. You're seeing people chase this market higher, and people are quick to forget about a strong dollar and what that means. So the Qs are basically flat or just slightly negative. Just slightly negative. I am looking at a Russell short here, guys. It is looking very intriguing for a Russell short. So pay attention to that IWM. Even the Q short looks decent here. QQQ might be a little bit of a decent play as well, considering the weakness in the Qs today. Or in Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia. And Bitcoin and gold. Alright guys, I'm going to grab a little Q short here at 324.79, 324.79. It's a 1/4 position. 324.79. Basically where I'll stop out of this trade is if we get a close back above 325.32. Target on this trade is down here. Google's now still trying to pull off of the highs. Alright, so we're short Google, we're short the Qs. Apple's new low on Apple. Gold new low. Gold's now had 6 consecutive 10-minute candles. It is coming into its first level of support here, around the $2,009. But with the dollar surging, I think it's going to go lower. We're still eyeing up Disney for a long. Google's just really hovering at the highs still up substantially, 4.74%. So the Qs are falling even with Google and Amazon near the highs. That's the crazy thing. Nvidia's falling a little bit more sharper now. Google's still acting well. Apple's still at the lows. Qs are still pushing up. Microsoft seeing some more selling, so that should weigh in on the Qs. Markets are trying to push up here. Spiders, dollars taking a breather. Still a lot of weakness in Nvidia. Google's still holding up. Amazon's near the highs. Amazon's pushing up like a champ. Meta's also acting well today. So QQQ, a lot of selling occurring in the Qs. XOM's piercing the daily 200. I do have a long level on XOM that I'm watching on my other screen here. It's a little bit lower. It's around the 103.38 level. If we were to get a straight flush into that level, I would consider going long. Disney's still trickling lower, so keep Disney on your radar. Interesting day today. Interesting day. Spiders are testing the lows still again. Google's still acting resilient though. Now will we see some money rotate out of Google into some of the other mega caps? It seems like there's a big money rotation trade just going from mega cap to mega cap to mega cap. GDX still coming down. Copper's still weak. McDonald's and Coke are weak today. Those stocks typically move in tandem as well. We've seen that happen. Baba's still acting well. I'm eyeing up CVS here. I want CVS to fill the gap to the downside, and then we can go long CVS. That's more of a swing trade opportunity, but it is something I'm paying attention to. Google and the Qs are still holding up. So we got a bullish hourly close on the dollar. We did get a bullish hourly close. Qs are still just hovering at our short level. I'm seeing the Russell starting to break down a little bit more as well. Dollar's still trying to hold and push up higher. So now you're seeing weakness in Google, strength in the dollar continuing. Markets are still holding up. Qs are still holding up. Google is still holding up. Now Amazon's starting to see some of its initial weakness. Nvidia is also testing the lows. It's 10.04. We've had one winner on Google. We're shorting Google again, waiting to see if that comes in. Disney's still trickling lower. Bitcoin's getting clobbered right now. Still holding that head and shoulders neckline support. It is piercing that level now, but it's not triggered it yet. It certainly has not triggered it yet. GDX is down 3% so far. KB Homes and home builders are holding up. Google's pushing up now some more. Apple's pushing up as well. Russell, KRE is starting to see more sell sides, so the KRE is obviously going to impact the Russell if this continues to fall. So keep that Russell on. If the Russells take out these lows here, I mean it's a very high probable short to the gap fill down there. So when you're testing those lows right now, you're still holding up. Google's still trying to push up some more. Disney's still trickling lower. Qs are still trying to fight here. So the Russell's breaking that pivot. The Russell is breaking that pivot here. You can see that now this is a very high probable short down to this gap. And if you get a close back above this trend line, then you stop out. So I'm going to short the Russell if it retraces back to this 172.85 level. That's where I'll look for a short. If we get a retrace up there, I will short it. Dollar's starting to push up some more. Nvidia new lows. Alright, I'm shorting the Russell here, 172.83. 172.83. It's a 1/5 position. Basically, we stop out of this trade if we get a close back above this wick high around 173 on this 5-minute chart. So we're in Google short, we're in the Q short, and we're in the Russell short. You will have some support when you hit this level here. Qs are also seeing a little bit of weak. Qs are just at our level, hovering. Google's obviously taking a long time to try to come down here. It's holding up. It definitely has relative strength. Nvidia is getting pummeled right now. So the Russell's trying to move up now. Google may have a 10-minute topping tail forming. Google's forming a 10-minute tail candle. Nvidia is breaking lower. QQQ. Slightly flat on the Qs here. Alright, so let's watch this IWM, because if it starts to get a close above that 173 on a 5-minute basis, we will stop out. Google did put in a 10-minute reversal candle. It's trying to get a retrace now to push higher. Oil's still coming lower. Dollar's still near the highs. Gold near the lows. Nvidia near the lows. Apple's just off of the lows. Qs were flat. IWM were flat. Google were slightly out of the money. That's okay. Russell's coming down a little bit more now. You're seeing continuation selling in Nvidia. Nvidia is potentially triggering a head and shoulders M-top. On the 10-minute chart, it just triggered it actually, which I'll pull up Nvidia to show you. So Nvidia has triggered a head and shoulders intraday. Now it keeps fighting these. It's triggered many of these in the past, and they keep negating it. So definitely be patient. So here's your left shoulder. You can see you triggered on the 10. You'll see if we trigger it on the 15 in due time. But if we do trigger that, then we have a move down of basically this 2676 level. I don't think it would hit there today, but it certainly could. So we'll pay close attention to Nvidia. Obviously the Russell's still hanging in there. Ooh, look at this Russell decline. Look at this. So nice job. We're nice in the money on that trade so far in the Russell. Google's still not cooperating. Still prepared to add to Google at 118.11 here. 118.11. Dollar's starting to soften slightly. Bitcoin's catching a small bit. Qs are now moving up. Spiders are trying to bounce as the dollar softens a little bit. So the Russell's coming down. We're nice and in the money on the Russell. Qs are pushing up though. Google's trying to push up some more. The Russell's also pushing up. The Qs are still trying to hold up and push up. The Qs just turned green, so they flipped to the green side. Russell, Google, I just added to my Google here at 118.13, 118.13. So the average now is 117.45. Disney's still on watch for a long trade. Russell's still having a nice bounce. The Qs are also trying to bounce here and continuing to move up. So spiders are trying to move up as well. Google's up over 5% now on the session. Spiders are trying to get a bounce here. XOM is still trickling lower. KRE is still under pressure. Bitcoin's had a nice bounce off of the lows, potentially putting in an hourly bottoming tail. We'll see if that holds. Disney's still under some pressure, but there are some buying pressure going on at these levels. So let's see if Google continues to fall. Aluminum stocks, copper's still under pressure, gold is still under pressure. The dollar's taken a little bit of a breather, which is why the markets are trying to stabilize and bounce here. Microsoft's bouncing off the lows, Apple's had a bounce, Nvidia's had a small bounce. Amazon's softening slightly, pierced that 112 level, now it's pulling back underneath that level. The The QQQs and the Russell are still holding up okay. We may have to stop out of the IWM here if we get a close above that 173. So spiders are getting a pretty decent bounce here as we speak. Dollar softening here. IWM's coming back down. So basically the Qs are now reversing. That was our stop out level, but we didn't get a close above that. We did not get a close above that, so we're still technically okay. So the Russell keeps seeing rejection here. Google's finding some resistance, but still holding up very, very well. And Google said AI the most out of any mega cap. The Russell's falling sharper now. Alright, Russell's falling sharper now. And so are the Qs. Qs are looking like they want to trigger this bear flag. 324 is a big level of support. That's your initial level. Amazon's now coming in. So this is where things could get tricky. If Google and Amazon start to weaken, that's where things get really tricky. AMD almost went negative. Russell's getting absolutely hammered here. So look at this Russell. What I'm going to do now is I'm moving my stop loss to 172.70 on the Russell. I'm protecting this trade, so we have an in the money stop. In the money stop right at this 172 level. Alright, I'm moving it now down to 172.50 in the money stop loss on the Russell. So we're in the money 47 cents right now. All right, markets are still under pressure here. Even the Qs were flat on our QQQ trade. We may get stopped there out of the Russell. We may get stopped out of the Russell here. Google's still holding up. Amazon's seeing a little bit of more distribution. Apple's still under a little bit of pressure. You have the dollar trying to move up again. Alright, the Russell didn't stop us out. Here we go. Another round of selling. We're almost at the cover level, guys. Alright, I'm moving my stop to 172.40. 172.40. So the Russell's falling sharply lower here, guys. Get ready to cover the Russell. Get ready to cover the Russell. Qs were flat on the Qs. We're basically slightly out of the money on Google. The dollar's trying to push up again. Alright, you're hitting support on the Russell now at that pivot. There is a chance that it could just do a flush through there. There's a big gap fill down there. Probably won't hold it all the way. But if we get a pierce of this level, I'm going to look to cover. It's piercing now. I'm going to move my stop to 172.26. 172.26 stop on the Russell. or cover, sorry, I should, just protecting the trade. Look at this thing come down more now. Qs were in the money. Let's see if we can get one more dip. All right, we may get stopped out here. We're 2 cents away from being stopped out on our winner. We're 2 cents away. Look at this. It didn't stop us out yet. The markets are looking weak. Hopefully we can break that 172 level on the Russell. That would be beautiful if we can break that 172 level on the Russell. That would be ideal. Disney's still interested in Disney for a long trade. It is coming down. We're 2 cents away from being stopped out. All right, we just got stopped out at 172.26 for a nice win on the Russell. That's a good win. Only had 100 shares there, but that is 57 cents times 100 shares, so 57 bucks. Nice win. Let's manage our QQQ trade, which we're in the money on that. And then we'll also manage our Google trade. So Google's a stubborn little beast right now. Qs are still trying to hold up. They're just slightly negative. The S&P's down 0.68%. The Nasdaq is down 0.14%. Even the yields are down. Russell's still falling. I'm still looking at Disney for a potential long. So I'll take a look at Disney. Disney's still coming in here, guys. Let's see if we can get a flush down on Disney. Down 9% today. Wow. Meta's still holding up really well in today's session. PacWest has had a big bounce. You have AMD almost going negative. Google's still up 5. Palantir's given up most of its gains. SoFi's negative. Microsoft's negative. Unity's up 11.4. Unity's still not at resistance there. Markets are still acting well here with Amazon and Google holding up this market. But you do have the volatility starting to increase, the VIX. CVS even is interested. CVS is coming up into a key gap fill that I'm intrigued about going long. 68.78. I'm looking at CVS. Russell's getting a bounce here, so the Qs are getting a bounce. This is all inside bearish consolidation on the Qs. It should make a move lower. It should. But Google is keeping it up right now. Literally, Google's keeping this market up. Disney's still trying to bounce off of these lows. The Russell's catching a bounce here. Big bounce coming in on the Qs. Big bounce coming in on the Qs. Big bounce on the Qs there. So communication stocks are catching a nice bid here. Obviously that's Google. So Google has a heavy weighting in the XLC, which is lifting the communicate. Microsoft is having a magnificent bounce here. Wow. Microsoft is ripping. Silver's caught a little bit of a bid. Disney's trying to move up. Still just waiting on Google. Netflix is positive today. Meta's up 1.5. Sympathy to Google. Just catching a lot of that excess liquidity flow that is moving into the XLC. So if you look at the XLC, XLC's up 1.1%. Definitely acting very, very well. So the Qs On a 5-minute close, we may stop out if we get a close above this pivot. Spiders are bouncing well here. Microsoft had a phenomenal bounce up. Dollar's putting in some sideways consolidation. So Tesla's now getting a bounce. All right, the Qs are probably going to stop us out here. We'll know our fate in 3 minutes. All right, so Qs are closing back inside that level. Google's peeling away now. Nvidia's catching a bounce. Disney's catching a bounce. Spiders are still holding up. It's approaching that 10:30 time frame. IWM has had a fantastic bounce. Take a look at this IWM bounce. It's actually looking to be another short candidate again. If the IWM pierces this 173 level, it's a potential short. Again, Disney's catching a bit off of the lows, so that one's kind of off the table now. Apple's still negative on the session. Baba's up 5%. The Qs are looking like they're trying to bounce here, with Nvidia moving off the lows, Microsoft having a big bid off the lows. But believe it or not, there's still a lot of selling that is occurring. The Qs just went positive, so now the spiders and Russell's the only thing that's negative. Russell's getting rejected at that neckline again, so take a look at this rejection on the Russell. Big rejection on the Russell, almost back to our previous short level. And it just seems that one after another, they've pumped up the mega caps. They've pumped up Apple, they pumped up Microsoft, they pumped up Meta, they've pumped up Nvidia, they've pumped up AMD, they've pumped up Amazon, and obviously today's Google. Once we run out of mega caps to pump up, that's when you could see a bigger move, a directional move in the market. Because if you think about 15 stocks have been responsible for 97% of the S&P 500 gains. Just really think about that for a second. 15 stocks have been responsible this year for 2023's gains for 97%. So what happens when we can't pump up these mega caps anymore? Many of them are into massive resistance on a technical basis. Then when you do the fundamental review, of course things can stay higher for a lot longer than we anticipate, but at what point do the fundamentals start to come back into the picture? We're not in a quantitative easing cycle with low rates. Google's starting to come down now, so we're flat on our Google trade. That's good to see. Qs were slightly out of the money, but if Google starts to come down more, we should see more sell side pressure. We did get a 20-minute topping tail and a 30-minute topping tail on Google. Google's coming down a little bit harder now, guys, which should weigh in on the Qs as well. All right, I'm going to protect the Google trade here at 117.25 stop loss, a cover stop. So I'm protecting the trade 117.25. So we're locking in 20 cents per share. And we have 500 shares on Google here. So it's a pretty decent position. All right, we're about to be stopped out of Google here for a small gain. Nope, we're still valid. We're still valid. It's coming down now. Some more. In your first little pivot bounce zone, we should see that break. Qs are coming down now. These markets are definitely fighting these levels. All right, Google's coming down some more now. So I'm going to move my stop to 117.20 now. 117.20 on Google. It's a cover stop, so we're locking in 25-cent gain. All right, we're coming down some more now. So this is going to weigh in on the Qs. Notice how Google's starting to show some weakness, and the Qs are starting to fall here. So we have a stop loss planned at 117.20. Qs are still fighting this level though. This is bearish consolidation. It should move lower. I repeat, it should move lower. Let's see if the Qs can get to our target zone. What would be wild is if the Qs actually, or if Google went all the way back down to gap fill. Google's falling more now. The Qs are falling more. All right, I'm going to adjust my stop now to 117.10. 117.10 on Google. So now we're locking in 35 cents per share. And every 10 cents it falls more, we'll lower our stop by 10 cents. For every 10 cents it falls, we'll lower it by 10 cents. So Google's catching a bid. 117.10 stop for myself. Qs are still weak right now, so the Qs were in the money. I have a target here at 324. It should hit 324. We may get stopped out of Google here. 117.10. All right, I just got stopped out of Google for a 35-cent gain times 500 shares, so it's a win to us. It's a win for us. It is coming lower, and granted, we still have the Q short going on, which we're in the money now. And I'm still interested in Disney here. So if Disney can basically fall a little bit more, we may have a little level to play on Disney on the long side. Come on, Qs, get to that 324 level. I'm looking for a 324 cover on the Qs, a 324 cover on the Qs. It's now 10:30 time frame. What I'm going to recommend is we put a break-even stop loss on the Qs at 324.79. That way it's now that 10:30 time frame. I am pretty much going to end this stream here, considering we banked 2 Google winners, 1 IWM winner, and we're now have a break-even stop loss on the Q. So therefore, basically 4 for 4 today's day trading session, and no risk right now, no risk. So congrats on those winners today. I've given you the parameters. I'm looking for a 324 target on Qs for about an 81-cent gain, and we have a break-even stop loss right now on the QQQ. All right, well, on that note, thank you all for tuning in. Be careful of that dollar because it is looking strong. My Disney level that I'm looking at is basically, there's 2 levels. This 90.52 level, 90.50 level, and then of course your double bottoms, your bigger ones. So I'll leave it up to you how you intend to play that. But definitely be careful because this market could see more selling. Especially that's what it looks like what's happening today. Is it looks like we're seeing a continuous sell side pressure. And we'll see if that lets up at all later on the session. But thank you all for tuning in. Let's just see if Google flushes or QQQ's flush one more time here. Nvidia just made a new low, so it's looking likely. Microsoft seeing some selling. But congrats on the trades today, and we'll call the stream to an end. Thank you all for tuning in.